Welcome to another episode of One on One with Mitch Lafon. Joining me this week, two men that have played guitars for Ozzy Osbourne. The one, the only GUS G, who is his current guitarist, got a new solo album out called Brand New Revolution. So we talk about Brand New Revolution. We talk about working with Ozzy, getting the Ozzy gig, and an update on a new Ozzy Osbourne album. Is it happening? GUS G explains. Then, on the flip side, we talk to Alex Skolnick of Testament, also having played with Savatage, TSO, his own Alex Skolnick trio. And some of you are saying, well, he's never played for Ozzy. Well, he did. One gig back in 1995. And so we talk about playing that one gig with Ozzy, what it was looking over to his right and seeing Ozzy standing there. And then we get into discussions about Randy Rhoads and Metal Allegiance, his new band. Of course, we talk about that. We talk about the new Testament album that's coming out. Hopefully, we'll see the light of day in 2016. And for that reason, because we have two interviews, no guest host, we're just going to hop right into it. We're going to start with the shorter of the two interviews. GUS G runs around 15 to 20 minutes. Alex runs just around 30 minutes. So here right now is the one, the only GUS G. We are speaking with GUS G, guitarist for Firewind, and of course Ozzy Osbourne. New album is Brand New Revolution. So let's start right there, Gus. There's a lot of people on this album. You've got Jeff Scott Soto. You've got Elise Rid. I think that's how you say her name.
Elise Reed.
Elise, yeah, and of course Matt's Levin.
Yep.
Is this a solo project with intentions to go on tour? Is this just an album and then you're gonna go back to Ozzy? Sort of situate me
Well,
with all that.
it's it's I put up my first solo record last year, and this one, in 14 months later, there was even more guests on the first one.
Yeah.
um, but I've already been touring like for a year, on and off for my solo thing. I didn't really start it out with the intention of making this a full touring thing, but it got really good reviews and good response. I'm talking about the first album last year, and that there was interest for me to go out there and play some shows, and one that thing evolves, it grows, and next thing you know, I'm doing some festivals, and then I did a little headline tour, and now I'm going to go out on tour and support this record.
Okay. The question for me here is this sort of signaling a new part of your career where you're going to go out and be Gus, the solo artist, or is this just something temporary while Firewind is wound down and while Ozzy is off doing Black Sabbath?
No, I mean it's for me it's whenever I do something, I go for it 100%. I never I won't do it half-assed. So I mean, especially now that I have the opportunity to play live and present these songs to in concert, then there's definitely no going back now. So it definitely is a priority for me. It's a new thing, and I'm having a lot of fun with it, and of course I'm serious about it, but like with anything, you can be serious but not too serious. You really cannot expect too much from the music business these days. So if people want me to go out there and play these songs, I'll do that. Yeah.
How freeing is it for you to work on your own project? I mean, now you get to do all the rules. Does it get sometimes become overwhelming where you're like, oh, I didn't have to think about that before, you know?
Well, that was a feeling that I got when I was making the first record,
Okay.
because usually when I was finishing a song, then I had to play to to my bandmates and then see what they think, and you kind of have to make compromises and stuff. Of course, that's what being in a band is all about, the team spirit and stuff. But this was a bit different, whereas if I was happy, there was really nobody else to, ask about that. It was like, well, that's that. Let's move on to the next one. Uh, it was a strange and cool feeling at the same time, different. And I like to collaborate anyways. I like to write with other people. So that's why there's so many co-writers on this album. That's what I did again this time. So we'll see where it takes me. The beauty of this project is that it doesn't have to be a specific thing. You know, the next album could be a full on acoustic album, or it could be, you know, classical music with shredding guitar over it, or it could be, you know, or it could be a full instrumental album, or just whatever, rock songs, just saying, you know, like it doesn't matter. You know, it's pure freedom, actually.
Yeah, in fact, that's what I was going to ask you, because this one really does spotlight your sort of hard rock guitar playing. So there is a chance that on a third or fourth album, you might go in another direction.
Yeah, you never know, man. You never know that, you know, it depends on the kind of phase I'm going through, you know, and what kind of stuff I start writing. I mean, at the time, these were the songs that I started writing when I was making my first album, and then this new album became the extension of that, really, because I didn't really stop writing. After I finished I'm the Fire record last year, I kept on writing and writing and writing, and then eventually, you know, I had a lot of the stuff that you hear on Brand New Revolution. So, I mean, I don't know what kind of phase I'm going to be, you know, going through it in 2 or 3 years from now when I start making another record. So let's see.
We'll see. Now you have Marty O'Brien on the album. He's of course in Lita Ford's band. I just saw him play at Heavy Montreal. Back in 2013, I did a Kiss tribute called "The World with Heroes." He played on one of the tracks. Uh, what a fantastic guy! What's it like having Marty in the band or on the album?
Yeah, nah, he's great. He's a great guy. He's a great guy to be around with, and he's a great musician as well. He's a guy that I met through Jay Ruston, the guy who mixed the record
Yep.
and engineered it. Um, and you know, Jay Ruston was very, you know, he has played a key role into, you know, the creation of my solo project and, you know, the kickstart of my solo project. You know, he introduced me to guys like Marty O'Brien and Jacob Bunton, and you know, I'm grateful for that because those guys, they're fantastic people and great musicians. Yeah.
Talking about now, we've mentioned solo project a lot. Firewind is a band that you have been in for many years. And in fact, you're sort of one of the well, in fact, you're the only member that's been the whole time. The
Well,
lineup
it's my
has
band. I guess
yeah
it's just me that's left since '98 when we started. You know. So.
yeah. How is that different from this though? I mean, isn't that also sort of a solo project?
The thing with Firewind is that it started out like that. You know, it was the band based around me. You know, and a lot of session guys really helped me to, you know, do the record and stuff. But it evolved into a band after the third or fourth record. You know, we got a steady lineup and we became a full touring band, and everybody was involved in writing and the decisions and stuff. Still, you know, I mean, if there was to be a leader of that band, that would be me, I guess, because, you know,
Absolutely.
the guys trust me with, what was that?
Absolutely. I mean, you're the boss in that band, as far as I can
Yeah,
tell.
well, you know, it's you know, in a way, you know, like the guys trust my opinion and stuff and my vision for the band because they know I started it when I was very young and all that. Um, so, you know, I was the guy that would go out there and get the record deals, you know, all the business deals happen and all that stuff, and have all the ideas for the band and where we should go and all that. The thing is, when I did the solo record, it was like I definitely asked myself that, what kind of record do you want to do? You know, it's like it's if it's gonna sound like Firewind, then there's no point in calling it GUS G. You know, it should be a Firewind record. So, you know, I made sure, even though I write a lot of the material in Firewind, most of that you know, I just wanted to explore different, you know, different sides of my playing and my writing style. I didn't even know I could make a hard rock record like the one that I did now, you know,
Yeah.
being a solo artist. And you know, I got to play more acoustic stuff. I got to co-write with other people, other producers, and, you know, wrote some more classic rock title songs, or, you know, even experimented with doing some more kind of like active rock, more current kind of like sounding stuff, which is cool for me, you know. But obviously, you know, one thing that remains the same is my playing, you know.
Absolutely. Does this mean then that Firewind is over, or is that just a project that is lying in state and at some point you'll resurrect?
No, Firewind is definitely not over. I mean, actually, we've confirmed our reunion show, if you'd like. I mean, not that the band ever split up, but we're doing the 70,000 tons of
Oh,
metal cruise.
that's right. You're doing that in
Yeah,
January or whatever, February.
yeah. That's gonna be like our first show in almost 3 years. So after our hiatus, you know, we're coming back to do that. And I mean, the way that we're thinking about that now is just, you know, we're gonna do this, have fun, and see how it feels, you know, and how we feel about it, and maybe go out there and do a few more shows. We'll see. You know, I can see Firewind becoming more of an eclectic type of band when it comes to live shows in the future. You know, I can see us becoming more of a kind of band, a festival band that will play only like a couple of festivals a year or, every 2 years, and, kind of like get better slots and then present the band in a bigger way rather than going back to clubs and doing what we did for 10 years nonstop. Whereas, my solo project is kind of like where I'm at right now, and I'm planning on building this up and touring every place around the world.
Yeah, and the funny you mentioned festivals and the 70,000 ton cruise, because they were at the Heavy Montreal Festival this year, and I heard that you were going to be there, so I should have known better. But what's the cruise experience like for you? Is that something that you really like? Is it fun, or is it just sort of really hard work? I mean, the fans are having a great time. They get the music, the drinking, and all that. But for a band, what's the experience like?
Well, originally when I was kind of opposed to doing one of those, I was like, I'll never go on a boat because actually I don't like boats. But
I'm with you. I don't like boats.
Yeah, and then the thing is, everybody was telling me, "Oh, it's so great, it's so great." I was like, "Yeah, whatever." And then we were offered to do the Wacken Metal Cruise in Germany. That was 2 years ago, and we did that. And you know what? It was really great and very relaxed and laid back. And after I got off the boat, I was like, well, that was a lot of fun actually. And nobody bust our balls. Everybody was friendly and very polite, and the shows were good. And I'd love to do that kind of thing again. And the opportunity came up to do 70 tons of metal with Firewind. And also actually 2 weeks after that, I'm going on another cruise with my solo band on the Monsters of Rock cruise. So in February, I'm going to be going on a couple of cruises.
Yeah, not a bad life on a couple of cruises. Let's get into your days with Ozzy, the Scream album.
Hmm.
You're brought in. Explain to me exactly, how does Ozzy or Sharon find you? Where do they get to hear from GUS G? They just go to YouTube, or what's the story?
I don't know, man. I guess you have to ask them. I still don't know where the hell they found me. I'm sure, they have people that are, they like, they would probably put a list for them to check out of guitar players, people
Right.
from management and stuff. And then, I was one of those guys that made it on that list somehow. I still, to this day, I don't know exactly how that happened and why. And, I just got an email one day out of the blue, and then they asked me if I wanted to come out and audition.
Oh. But when you get that email, do you look at it and go, spam, right? My friends are sending me this. I mean, right? I mean, how do you? I mean, it's
No,
Ozzy.
I actually knew. I had heard of that guy's name because I knew he
Okay.
was working for Sharon and Ozfest. Originally, I thought it was probably about Ozfest, because I was recognizing the name. I was like, well, that's probably one of the guys that work at Ozfest. So, because I had been there before with Arch Enemy. So,
Right.
so I thought maybe they were interested in inquiring about Firewind for a future Ozfest or something, and I was psyched about it. And then I got an email back and was like, no, dude, it's like we're actually thinking of you for a guitar player position. It's like, are you interested? And I was like, and at that point you go like, hold on a second. You have 3 shots of whiskey. You calm down, and then you reply, yes, I would love to come back and audition. Yes.
What was the audition process like? Did they have you learn 5 songs, 10 songs, 30 songs? What exactly was it like?
Well, they asked me to learn 4 songs.
Okay,
I went in and learned 10 actually, but I wanted to go
prepared.
extra prepared, yeah, in case he wants to play something else. And we ended up doing 6 songs in the end. Um, so yeah, that's it really. That was the process. I just practiced my ass off. I learned the songs again and learned them properly this time. And then, a couple of weeks later, I got on a plane, went to LA, and I met Blasco and Tommy was there. And in the beginning, we jammed for a couple of hours. I did my warm up and stuff, and then Ozzy came down with Sharon, and we jammed right away. And yeah, and then
Where,
he turned around and said to me, "You're fucking great."
which has got to be a great moment. Now, as a guitar player, 'cause you're going in there and you're playing songs that Zach Wilde has put his stamp on, Randy Rhoads has put his stamp on, Jake E. Lee. I mean, these are not nobodies. I mean, these are some of the biggest names in rock guitaring ever.
Hmm.
Is that something that scares you? Do you just say, listen, do you learn them note for note, or you say, no, I'm going to make them GUS G songs and I'm going to add a little something here and I'm going to change a little? Like, how do you approach those songs?
You approach them with respect, first of all. and love as a fan. You don't go there and fuck around with those songs. You know, you play them as they are, and the only thing that's gonna come through is your own personality, which is that's inevitable. You know, I have my own sound. You know,
Of course.
I have play my own guitars, and my own tone comes through the speakers. You know, and that's gonna sound like me, but it's gonna sound like me playing those notes. So, you know, there is gonna be, you have to play them as they are, because I think, in my opinion, fans expect to hear that, and I'm pretty sure Ozzy wants to hear that as well. I don't think he wants his songs to be played in a different way,
Right.
because I wouldn't want anybody else to play my songs in my band if they came in, if they walked in. I wouldn't want them to, to fuck around with that. Let alone when you're dealing with such classics.
Yeah.
So,
And of course, the
you know,
Sabbath stuff, Tony Iommi stuff too, right?
yeah, yeah. So you play those songs as they are written, of course, but there's going to be moments where you put in your own thing there, here and there, and of course, both Sabbath and Ozzy songs, they have their own moments where you can improvise and do your own thing throughout the show, and like I said, your own personality is going to come through anyways.
Are there, out of those four guitarists, as you're trying to learn the songs that they've done, is there any one where you go, how the hell did he, I mean, you sit there and go, how did Randy do that? Or how did Zach do that? Or is like, okay, no, there's his notes, they're easy to learn, let's just get it done. I mean, was there any of
No,
that?
I mean, there's always moments with all those guys, where I was like paying close attention, like how they did specific parts. I mean, I don't recall something specific right now.
Right.
Actually, I do. I remember, like, the intro Shot in the Dark. There's all these
Mm-hmm.
harmonics played. It sounds like keyboard, but it's like guitar. I was like, how the fuck did that happen? How did he record that? But you figure out everything. It's no big deal, and you just make sure that what I wanted to achieve with that is that that it's I do the songs justice, and if he's happy, then I'm happy. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. As you're learning those songs and learning some, like figuring out Shot in the Dark, for example, does that make you a better player? Like, do you take that and then come back to the GUS G album and say, yeah, you know what? I learned how he did those harmonics. I learned how he did that. I can apply it to my style. I mean, is it a learning experience?
That everything is a learning experience, not only for those songs, obviously, but with everything.
Right.
Everything you hear, everything playing with another musician, playing with another band, whatever. Everything is like a learning process. For me, every day, it has to be something where you keep, you move forward as a musician. I'm a much better player than right now than what I was, 5 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
So whatever you hear, whatever you learn, it's like I always call it like the bag of licks. You have your little bag of licks, and you put in there all the licks that you like as a kid, and when you grow up, and then you put them in there, and then one day you open that bag, and all those licks come out, and obviously you play them your own way. These are ideas that you took from other guitar players, and boom, there you have it. Like 20 years later, you got your own style. Creating your own style is not something that happens overnight or in one year. It takes time and
Yeah.
a lot of experience touring and also recording. You have to write a lot of songs to get good at it. The same thing with solos. You have to record a lot of records, a lot of songs to be able to play a great solo.
What would you consider to be your guitaring style if you had to think about it and give it a word?
My own style, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't know
What are
if
you
it's.
known for?
I'm primarily known for being a heavy metal guitar player, without a
Of course.
doubt.
Of course.
I don't know if I can put it into just one word, but I would say, one of the things, I guess, that makes me, sets me apart maybe from others, if you'd like, is that my ability, I guess, to blend in classic hard rock and traditional hard rock and metal with the more modern sounds and techniques. So, you know, I always wanted to make sure that you are able to. I wanted to learn how to shred, but I also wanted to learn how to play a tasteful melodic solo. Um, so that's was always like my aim. When I was younger and wanted to. I was practicing all my favorite guitar players.
Yeah, and I will say this about the Scream album, and I said it before we started recording. Let Me Hear You Scream is, to me, one of the greatest Ozzy songs. Certainly one of the greatest ones he's done in the last 20 years.
Oh wow,
Uh,
thanks so much,
oh,
man.
I just love it. I think it's fantastic. I mean, I love it to death. Is the Aussie solo band still going to go on? I mean, are you talking about doing a new album or a new tour, or is it just got to wait and see? Do you have any information?
I don't know, man. I don't have any official statement really because
But you haven't been fired.
I just did an interview like
Okay.
I don't know when it was, like a while ago, and then I just saw online today GUS G says Black Sabbath is making a new record. I was like, when the fuck did I say that? You know, it's like, so if I say something like that, it gets blown out of proportion. You know? I mean, I'm not the guy to make any statements about that stuff. You know, I don't know what the fuck they're doing and what the plans are. You know, all I know is that we have two festivals for this year. One is the Voodoo Fest in New Orleans, and then we have Ozfest Japan. I don't know what's happening after that, so no comment about the future, really.
Yeah, and that's what, by the way, one of the great things about having the audio used is that there's no out of context, and you don't get these weird headlines that say GUS G said that. It's like, no. You can hear
Right,
what Gus,
exactly.
you
Yeah.
can hear what
Well,
he said. But as far as those two festivals, you're not aware of anything where 2016 there's a full-blown Aussie summer tour, or we're going to go back and do the follow-up to Scream, and we're going to get into the
no,
studio.
I don't know, man. Like I said, I don't know.
But you're
Anything can change. From my experience, being in the Osbourne's cab, like for the last 6 years, anything can happen within, the next hour or something. Anything can change. So, by the time we play that festival in October, maybe there are plans. So maybe whatever I'm saying right now is total bullshit. So it doesn't really matter.
No, but you're very right. Rock and roll. I mean, everybody says, "Oh, we're gonna have an album next," and then it doesn't happen.
Right. So I mean, if the thing is, it's all his band. So if he's planning on making a record, I do not know that. I play guitar for him, and I'm sure if he, if he wants me to be on that, he's gonna call me up, and I'll be there. So I don't know what he's thinking about that stuff and what the plan is. So I haven't heard anything.
Okay, and I'll just finish with this question on that subject. As far as it all goes, you're still his guitarist. You haven't been fired. There's no you're still GUS G from the Aussie band as of today.
As far as I know, yeah.
Okay. All right, go. Wouldn't that be nice if I had some other information? Said, hey, buy the no.
Well, you never know, man.
I
don't know.
Just getting back to Brand New Revolution before we wrap this up. You are going to tour. Are you going to take Jeff Scott Soto or Matt's on the road with you, or who's going to handle vocals?
Well, it depends. The other guys also have their own projects and their own things going on at the same time. So sometimes it's hard to the thing with my solo band is like, I have my schedule, and then if somebody can follow that, cool. Then if not, then somebody else fills in, and then we go back to. So it's like a revolving door of friends and musicians. So I mean, I did the summer tour here with Matt Lafon here, and the festivals that I just played, and then I have this. I'm going on tour in Europe in a couple of weeks actually, and I have a German singer called Henning Basse. He's going to be singing with me. He actually filled in for Firewind like 8 years ago, so he's a great singer. And actually I'm doing the Monsters of Rock cruise next year, like I told you. Jeff Scott Soto is going to be singing with me on that one. So it's different guys every time, depending on the situation.
Yeah, which is cool. That keeps keeps it interesting for you, because you got to always kind of stay. It never becomes just automatic. You got to stay in the game and go, new singer, got to change a little bit here and there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that's also interesting for the fans as well. They know they're going to get a good band. That's going to be, my band's going to be, all killer musicians, all great guys, and you just never know who's going to be on which tour or what gig.
What gig? Yeah, it's kind of like Red Dragon Cartel, and almost.
Kind of like that, exactly.
I'm kidding, Gus. Absolute pleasure talking to you. Fantastic, and the album, I had a chance to listen to it. I was really, really impressed. It just really flows from song 1 to 12. There's a nice progression and flow, and it kicks ass, if I can say that.
Oh, cool. Good to hear that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, my friend.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
There you have it, folks. My interview with Ozzy Osbourne and Firewind guitarist GUS G, talking about his new solo album, Brand New Revolution. Let's not waste any time. Let's keep this thing going. Let's move right over to Testament's Alex Skolnick, talking about his new project, Metal Allegiance, that also features Megadeth's David Ellefson, Mark Menghi, and Mike Portnoy of the Winery Dogs. We talk about how we got all these guys together, considering that all these bands are recording new albums or have just recently recorded new albums. We talk about Alex with Ozzy Osbourne. We talk about the trio, TSO, Savatage. We pretty much cover it all. And if that wasn't enough, we mention Anchors or Axes and Anchors, the cruise that Alex will be taking part in February, in fact, actually, February 2016, also featuring Zach Weil, Yngwie Malmsteen, Michael Schenker, Marty Friedman, and of course the Randy Rhoads Remembered tribute. So that should be fun in itself. Without further ado, let's get right into Alex Skolnick. Let's get started and talk Metal Allegiance and Testament and all this wonderful stuff. I'll just start off by quickly asking you about Heavy Montreal. You got to perform there this year, and just how was that experience for you?
Oh, it was wonderful. I think in North America we get so envious because in Europe there are so many great festivals. Just one after the other, and it's just surprising that they don't happen here. There are so many bands in North America. So many of the bands come from North America, but Heavy Montreal is the first one that I've seen that really feels in a league with the European festivals.
Yeah, it was really great, and I had one of my most surreal moments at that festival that included you on stage watching Iggy Pop. To my left, Marky Ramone, and to my right was you, and it was just like, well, okay, that's a bit weird, but I can handle that. But that was great.
This is your life moment.
It really was. Metal Allegiance.
That was an amazing experience too. Like that was. I just forgot I had even performed. That's just one of the gifts about just being able to do this, to do music and be involved in music, to watch Iggy side stage. What a treat.
I know, and especially at Heavy Montreal with the decor, the scenery behind, that big giant ball and the sun coming down.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous. But
it was beautiful. People associate Iggy with sort of noisy punk, but the band is actually really tight and really solid, and great dynamics, and in its own way, it's very musical.
And it's just a great performance. But let's speaking about performances. You've got one coming up on September 17th with Metal Allegiance or Allegiance, whatever you want to say. Let's talk about that. What was the concept behind this project or album? Is it sort of a one-off and then thank you very much? Or is this something you'd like to continue to do for a second, third, and fourth album?
We didn't really plan that much. I mean, I think we left the process very organic.
Right.
And I think it's getting a great response as a result. I'm knocked out by the last couple reviews I've seen. Even Rolling Stone, who I'm not sure they've ever mentioned my band's Testament, let alone me as a guitar. We had this great feature premiere of the video, and I was quoted. I think if we had sort of aimed for that, it wouldn't have happened.
Right.
But we went in, and it was an experiment. I never worked with Dave Ellefson or Mike Portnoy before. We've crossed paths, nice guys.
Yep, agreed.
Love some of their work. I don't really have much else to say. Are we going to find common ground? What's it going to be like? And we just ended up with this abundance of material. The more we worked on it, the more it looked like we're going to have a full album.
Right.
I think originally we thought maybe we'll do covers and see if we can do an original tune or two, and then that became more like a half an album. Yeah, and then soon, guys, I think we're going to be able to do a whole album. So it went really well, and I think at this point it's something we would certainly want to continue.
At that point, when you were in that process and you said, okay, we've got a full album, did you say, we need to go find a singer, or were you already of the mind that this was going to be, Chuck and Randy and Troy and Phil, and where did the
That was something we already knew we were going to have different singers on different tracks.
Okay.
Whether it's you heard of it as an all-star project or what, we tend not to label it because we feel like it's a whole new thing.
Right.
We knew that was going to be the dynamic, but we also didn't know who was going to sing on each track. And as the songs developed, we would get ideas for who might sound right on vocals, but usually that was before the song was even finished.
Right, so you could sort of hear the voice for that song. You'd say, boy, this song is perfect for that kind of voice, and that's the kind of singer we need to go get for it.
That's true, and I think that might have influenced the later phase of the writing on each song. As we were imagining a certain type of voice, then that helped the song take shape. And usually there were 2 or 3 names that we had for each one, but then there were a couple that we knew were on board and we'd already talked about it. We said, all right, this is for that boy.
Now, David's off doing stuff with Megadeth. They've got a new album they're working on. Mike was, of course, doing Winery Dogs, and Testament is working on a new album, which I think Chuck said he hopes to have out by Christmas. Where did you find the time to get together?
Very carefully. Yeah.
Right.
It was really over the holidays, actually. When the whole industry was shut down.
Okay.
It was right around Christmas.
Okay.
The first week, I think it was either between Christmas and New Year's or right before Christmas. I forget, but then the second phase, each phase was about 4 or 5 days. And then the second phase took place after New Year's.
Right.
And in both cases, we gathered in Mike Portnoy's house, and he has a large home in the suburbs of Pennsylvania, and he has what some might call a man cave, sort of a drummer's paradise. And he's got every type of drum, multiple types of drums. He's got whole kits, replicas of Keith Moon's kit, Neil Peart's kit,
right?
Ringo's kit. And he's got a full setup down there. So, we spent long days just jamming. Coming up with new riffs. I had some ideas laying around that some of them wouldn't have worked for Testament. They were just outside of the thrash genre. Some of them just hadn't ended up getting used for Testament. Others I would come up with just while Mike was playing a drum beat. And we just had the spirit of just recording everything, listening back, zoning in on certain ideas, developing those ideas, and it was a pleasant process. We had a good time. Everybody gets along. There wasn't pressure to sound like a certain band,
right?
And that's what happens. When you're in a band, all the bands that we get associated with, both whether we're current members or former members. Those are all bands with different periods and different albums. And, anytime you do a new album, with Testament, for example, people might say, oh, I wish they would go back to, the first couple records, that sound. Or,
right.
I really like their Gathering period. Or, or I really like the most recent one. There's none of that. It's just such a new thing.
As you're putting the songs together, did you get into any point where you said, "Ooh, I can't kill the devil. That sounds like a Testament song. Maybe I should bring it to my other band." Were there any of those moments where you said, "Maybe I shouldn't let this go on this. I need to bring it back to the main band"?
No, not really, because the ideas, there were a couple ideas I know that just hadn't been picked up by Testament.
Okay.
We always usually the way that process works is both Chuck and Eric, they're the guys that have been there the whole time. I had a period away from the band.
Right, a little break.
Yeah. They're both. I look at it as if you look at it like a car, right? They both have their hands on the wheel, and I'm sort of the front seat driver, or maybe the back seat driver.
Backseat driver.
I steer it. I steer it in certain directions. Some of the ideas I bring in get picked up on. Some of them are fan favorites. Some of them don't. There were a couple ideas here that just didn't get picked up on, which is fine, and they worked great for Metal Allegiance. Can't Kill the Devil. In that case, it's hard to say if I would have, if I'd had the riff before, if it would have ended up with Testament. But it actually came during the process. That one totally came just from jamming. It was just a very jamming with Mike. So it was, its genesis was during the process with Metal Allegiance. So there's no question about that.
So there's an organic thing going on there. Let me just quickly talk about Testament briefly. You came to Heavy Montreal. You had a couple of guys, or replacement guys, or stand-ins, whatever, because you needed to. You are working on another album to follow up Dark Roots of Earth. How is that coming along? And is that something that you're actually really involved with, or do you just sort of show up when you're told and just lay your guitar parts and thank you very much?
It's a combination of both.
Okay.
Eric and I had a long writing session last year.
Okay.
In 2014. That we both thought went really well. Some of those ideas have been developed. But then there's a whole process that's happened since where Eric and Chuck sort of work together and sift through ideas and decide which ones Chuck feels good at singing over.
Okay.
So I know they've done that. They've come up with some new stuff on their own. But I have stuff in the mix. Anytime I'm always coming up with new music. I sent over something recently that got a very positive response.
Okay.
So we'll see if it ends up on the record.
But
it's a different thing because like I said, they're the ones with their hands on the wheel, and I think that with Metal Allegiance, it's just been a great opportunity for the rest of us to have our hands on the wheel and something too. Like all of us are drivers in the driver's seat here. So as our regular bands are all going great. We wouldn't change a thing, and they wouldn't be what they are otherwise.
Right.
But it's nice, Metal Allegiance is this outlet that functions differently. But that said, I think Testament, it's in a good place. I think Chuck's gotten very focused on and comfortable with, he knows what type of ideas inspire him, and so I know with the way Testament works, they everybody they have to be on the same page, and it has to be a point in time where they can focus on the record. I mean, even though it's been a really busy time for me, because not
Right.
only did we do the Metal Allegiance record, but right afterwards, Testament had this long tour with Exodus in the U.S.
Yep.
And then all these festivals, including shows with Metallica and Faith No More in Europe. And we were gone for a long time. So Testament to them, it definitely writes better when not touring.
Right.
But I think now it's in a place where it's ready for another album.
How far into the process are you? I mean, have you contacted Andy Sneap and said said come on back? Are you recorded anything, or is this sort of like, yes, it's in the process, but we're not there yet?
No, there's been a number of I guess like sub processes. Like I said, Eric and I had this great week together last year.
Okay.
Chuck and Eric have been doing a lot of work together. More recently, I've sent over ideas, some of which they seem very receptive towards. So, I think it has to happen in those phases first.
Gotcha.
And usually, as far as deciding on a producer and getting the producer involved, those are decisions that those guys make.
Right, and I mean, you're not there yet. So the album is most likely a 2016 release. I mean, at this point,
it's definitely a 2000. I think the idea is to get it written and recorded this year.
Okay.
So it comes out early in 2016.
Right, first quarter, as they like to say. Right.
First quarter, exactly.
Right. We know that in industry lingo. 1995, you were in England or in the UK, and you played one wonderful show with Ozzy Osbourne. Tell me a little bit about that experience. How was it, first of all, playing Crazy Train and looking over and going, oh, it's Ozzy, and how did that whole come about?
Yeah. I think it's one of those things. It's hard to remember. I wish I had a better memory of it, just because it was such a rush,
right?
And so surreal.
Right.
It was tough. It's something like, they had a lot of turnaround. I know they had tried a few different people out. The guy who they ended up actually getting for that tour ended up never doing a record. So it was this very strange period.
Right.
So you don't want to get too emotionally attached to it, but at the same time, I mean, how can you not? That's like a dream gig for a guitar player. And I, first of all, it was just, even though it only it was just one show, just to get to do so well in rehearsal that Ozzy decided to book a show, and everybody's going crazy because he's inspired and he wants to play. What an acknowledgement!
Absolutely.
Because I was in a strange time in music too. Solos are disappearing from hard rock and metal.
Yep.
I knew I was in this place of, just trying to find new directions, new places to put my talent, and I hadn't, it would be almost nearly 10 years before I'd come back to Testament.
Yep.
But just to do this thing where, Randy Rhoads is one of my all-time heroes. So just to be put in this position where, you're just creating art. He was such an artist, and you're just paying, tribute to him with, with Ozzy, and actually Geezer was on bass.
Right.
So to be, to play, and we did a couple Black Sabbath tunes. To play Black Sabbath with half of Black Sabbath, it's like, you really feel, blessed.
Yeah, especially back in
I'm not a religious person, but it's one of those things. It's like, wow, I really feel blessed to have a moment like this.
Right, kind of like me standing next to a Marky Ramone and you watching Iggy Pop play, right? But especially back in
that was a great moment too, and watching Iggy Pop from the side of the stage, that was also another
one of
moment.
those.
And it's these great moments like that make it all worth it, even though there's a lot of sitting in airports and negative comments on the internet. There's plenty that's unpleasant about it.
Right.
Hearing that you weren't hired for the tour, that was disappointing. But you know what? I chose to focus on the greatness of that moment.
What would have been greater, what is greater, standing there next to Ozzy or having stood on stage next to Paul Stanley? Had you had a chance to play for them?
Oh, definitely Ozzy.
There you go.
Just as a musician,
right?
Because Randy Rhoads, I think as you develop as a musician, I never stopped developing. I think that's one of the reasons I needed to step away and become fluent in different styles of music, right. Which enables me to do heavy music. But it's not what I listen to 24/7, and it's not what I play 24/7.
Right.
So there are musicians you outgrow. I saw Kiss on the Dynasty tour. I was 10 years old. I thought these are the greatest musicians in the whole world.
Yep.
I saw Kiss on the Psycho Circus tour.
And you thought, wow, what the hell happened?
And I thought, oh my God, they can barely play.
Yeah, well,
so but I still loved it. You know what I mean? It was Kiss. But Randy Rhoads is somebody that you don't outgrow.
What?
And there's very few musicians like that. Somebody outside of the metal genre, but who's had a big influence on many of us is Jeff Beck.
Right. Absolutely.
And you don't outgrow Jeff Beck. And even Van Halen, look, he had some rough periods. He sounded like his demons may have gotten the better of him. But he's had some good periods too, and I just saw him on a recent tour, and it was phenomenal. And I was just as inspired as ever. So Randy Rhoads is one of those rare musicians that you'll take through the rest of your life. Where there's others you may still love the band, but you might realize, okay, musician wise,
right.
This isn't somebody who's licks I'm going to be trying to figure out for the rest of my life.
By the way, since you mentioned that, it was hard to remember. The show you played on is actually available on YouTube. You can go back and take a listen.
Oh, the audio is.
Yeah, the audio from that show is on YouTube.
But I haven't seen. I know there's video of it too. I have heard the audio, and there's video, but I think there's only one person that has the video, and I don't think she's going to release it.
Oh, that'd be great if she did. Just speaking, since you mentioned Randy quite a bit, if you remember that rehearsal and the rehearsals up until that gig, as a guitarist, were you sitting there learning Randy's parts going, what the hell is this guy doing? It's so complicated. Or was it like, meh, piece of cake?
I think at that point, having the professional experience I'd had, and coming up with solos of my own, and learning a lot of solos over the years, I didn't go into it that worried. But I did have to say, I quickly remembered, oh yeah, this really is challenging.
Oh.
Like it actually was. Some of it was more challenging than I remembered. I mean, it's also the thing. I think at that point, and if you had that much experience, it's something where if you just live in that zone for a while, you'll get it. So I just I lived in Ozzy world for a while. I just lived, breathed, and ate Ozzy music.
Which is not such a bad thing. Speaking about
It's
different...
really not. No.
No,
No. I mean,
I've been there.
I think for
sounds
where
good to
I
me.
was, and like looking at what I ended up doing, and just sort of pursuing world music and jazz, and just expanding as a composer and everything. Like I think I needed to do that.
Right.
But that period of time, where it was just all Ozzy all the time. I mean, it's not bad because it's great music, and I could not do that for music I didn't like. It doesn't matter how much the paycheck would be.
Yeah, all Ozzy all the time works for me. Testament, Alex Skolnick Trio, Savatage. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say if if somebody, I'm not trying to think of if somebody is like I really don't like a really bad pop artist.
Right.
I'm not gonna name anybody, but I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Listen, you're a member of Testament. You have your own trio. There's Savatage, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, obviously that one gig with Ozzy, and now Metal Allegiance. What is it?
Planetary Coalition, too.
Right, of course. What is it about? I don't want to say what is it about you, because that sounds sort of rude. But what is it about musically where you want to try different bands, different things? Because obviously the trio is definitely not metal, right? So what is it that interests you in doing?
They're not metal musicians. These are actual musicians that play. They're professional improvisers.
Yep. What is the interest? I'm trying to look for the right word for that, but what is it about wanting to do these different bands and different projects? Why not just be Testament all day, all night? That's it. This is my band. I do nothing else. Why go off and do Metal Allegiance? Why go do the trio?
Well, I think in each case it's a different answer.
Okay.
With the trio, a big part of my listening is, it's not just Ozzy and
right.
Dio and Slayer, whatever. Even though I love all that stuff, big part of my listening is John Coltrane.
Right.
And I hear the John Coltrane Quartet. I don't understand how somebody cannot like that. How does somebody I'm baffled. And then there are others more associated with rock. Usually not guitarists, but like an example. One interesting example is Henry Rollins.
Yes.
Yeah, Henry Rollins can write extensively on the John Coltrane Quartet, and he gets it. And but he obviously loves hard and heavy music too. And I never understood why you can't be a musician and have those. And there are critics that are have very diverse interests. Ben Ratliff from the New York Times is a jazz critic. He also interviews Metallica.
Right.
But why I have an equal passion for improvised music, and the trio just became my vehicle for that. I had a few different ones over the years, but it sort of, the trio was the first one where it just really felt right, and it really felt like I could do whatever I want. And then a lot of my favorite guitarists from the improvisational side of things, they do different styles of music. I'll give Pat Metheny for an example. I mean, that's a huge, total musical genius in many ways. So that's somebody just like from another planet. But he seems to do an album every year. It's a different type of band. Sometimes, it's solo guitar music. Sometimes it's like a jazz combo. Even created machines to play music with, and that was interesting. John Mclaughlin, another one. He's in the 70s. He worked with Miles Davis, then he created Mahavishnu Orchestra. Started exploring acoustic Indian-influenced music. And you never know what he's going to do. There are many other musicians like that. John Zorn, who rock fans would know because he's done a lot of work with Mike Patton, produced Mr. Bungle. Right. But I mean, he has literally hundreds of albums. Probably one of the most prolific artists there is. So I look at guys like that, and it's funny. There's been a dialogue about musicians in rock and metal doing so many projects. But to me, that's always been normal. And I always look at these other musicians. And, as far as like my most recent instrumental project, Planetary Coalition, world music and acoustic music, it's just something I've always wanted to do. I spend a good deal of time listening to it and playing it. And I see no reason to limit myself to metal. And also back to Testament. Testament's a band I joined at 16 because I wanted to join an established band. It's not a band I started. And, things have been going great. But at the same time, the dynamic doesn't change. On a certain level, I'm still the kid who joined the band, even though...
You're still the new guy.
I still have this whole musical... We have other new guys who are fantastic, which I think has helped band and breathe new life into it. It's being a Testament now. It's a whole other experience than the first time around, and it's great. But it's still not a band I started. I'm not a main driver.
Right.
So Metal Allegiance just came along. These guys called me up. They said, we're doing an original album. We'd like you to be the guitarist and write tunes and help produce. And again, I said, I didn't know how it would go. I thought, let's give it a shot. But it went really well. And it's just great to have an outlet that's metal, where I have the same sort of, a role that's similar to my instrumental stuff. Except I'm sharing that role with Portnoy, Ellefson, and Menghi, who got us all together. Deserves a lot of credit. But it's nice to have a metal project. I was happy as far as metal goes. I just thought, Testament's my metal project. Right. When I do metal, it'll be Testament. But then this came along, and it's great. And I hope we can
keep going. It does sound to me there'll be a second and third album from what you're saying. It sounds to me like there's going to be more. I know we only had half an hour, and so we've run out of time. But let me just quickly. Savatage and Trans-Siberian Orchestra just played in Wacken. Did you watch any of that? What did you think of that, if anything?
I haven't watched it.
Okay.
But I heard it was great.
Okay.
That Savatage, it was a band. It was great to be a part of because I'd been a listener of them, and but that was also something where it was a project to be in. Be a guitarist more than a creator.
Right.
And I just think at that point, I was really looking to be creative. And it's great, with Metal Allegiance as well as my trio and Planetary Coalition. I get to be creative. So that was why that only lasted one record. But then I got to do these tours with Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and I learned so much. I really learned about being a performer on an arena level. Because Testament had never reached the arenas.
Right.
And suddenly I'm thrown into arenas with 14,000 people twice a day.
Yeah. I mean, like, 100
Um,
shows in 75 days kind of thing. I mean, it's crazy the schedule that they
right.
have.
And then special guests that included Joe Walsh, John Anderson, Steven Tyler, Roger Daltrey. I got thrown in a room with him for a half hour to teach him guitar parts.
Wow.
So I had an amazing time. But the reason I stopped doing Transylvanian Orchestra was it was taking up such a big chunk of the year.
Yeah. I mean,
And ultimately, I wanted to do projects where my role is bigger. I'd rather do a tiny project and have a huge role, like my trio, playing little jazz clubs, than an enormous project where I'm, it's really more of a production, and you're sort of, as great as it is, you kind of you can feel lost in the
experience. Yeah. And then I'll finish with this. Axes and Anchors is this cruise that's coming up in February. Just a quick quote about that and what's that. I mean, I see that you're there. Is it just a solo presentation where you just come up with the guitar? I mean, what exactly is?
No, I'm planning to bring my trio.
Okay.
And I'm also going to do guitar workshops.
Gotcha.
And it's the first of these musical cruises that's specifically designed for the guitarist or the guitar enthusiast. And there's going to be some great players on there. So really looking forward to it.
You got Yngwie, Schenker, Zach Wild, and so on. It's
Zach Wild. You got to get announced with all these guys. What an honor.
Yeah, it'll be the genesis of Metal Allegiance album number 2, I think, right there.
You never know.
You never know.
All I know is that we're not going to try to copy number 1. That just wouldn't be natural.
Agreed. It has to progress.
Number 2 will number 1 happened naturally. We didn't know who was going to be on it. We just did the album we wanted to come out. We wrote music that we liked as fans, and I think we'll do the same thing the second time around. And we'll see. I don't know. Maybe there will be a smaller group of singers. It'll be more compact, but I think it'll be. I think it will build off of it. We definitely started something that we want to continue.
And as a fan, I say you should, because the project, from what I've heard, is fantastic. And once I hear the whole thing, I just know it's going to be even better than fantastic. So.
Oh yeah, you need to hear the whole thing.
Absolutely, pleasure as always. It was great, standing next to you in Montreal, and
thanks.
Great,
that was fun.
A great interview, and hopefully we'll see you at Heavy Montreal in 2016, if not 2017. Alex, always a pleasure. Thank you.
You got it. Thanks, Mitch.
Have a good one. And there you have it, folks. My interview with Testament guitarist Alex Skolnick, talking about his new project, Metal Allegiance, that also features Megadeth's David Ellefson and the Winery Dogs Mike Portnoy. Album is definitely worth checking out. And speaking of albums worth checking out, let's not forget our first guest, GUS G from Ozzy Osbourne's band. His new solo album is called Brand New Revolution. And while we're checking stuff out, please head over to Twitter. Follow me at Mitch Lafon. The Facebook page is One on One with Mitch. And in the immortal words of Bugs Bunny, that's all, folks. Auf Wiedersehen, sayonara, au revoir. I will catch you next time. Bye for now.